I'm Tonya from Tonya's Witchy Kitchen. How are you doing today? I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Good to see you back. I'm just wore out. Oh, so the question today is, are you a chunky or are you a creamy? I ain't talking puke. Sorry. There is a story about that on my website, but we're not talking that today. We're talking chunky peanut butter or creamy peanut butter. So when it was just my husband and our two girls, we were tied right down the middle, right? Two of us liked the chunky and two liked the creamy. And when my son came along, our oldest son, he couldn't have peanut butter. So he couldn't be the tiebreaker. Eventually we discovered sun butter and stuff like that. So I was talking to my youngest son, because we had been talking about how he ended up in the ER because he ate candy on Halloween that he wasn't supposed to eat. And yeah, he spent the whole ER, or the whole Halloween in the ER and not trick-or-treating. And I said, well, that is what happens when you don't listen to mom. But anyway, I asked him, I said, so are you a chunky or a creamy? And he goes, I can't have peanut butter. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's like sun butter, you know, something that comes in those two consistencies. And he's like, oh, creamy. And I'm like, oh, you're so not my child. So not my child. So I really don't know. There's 7 of us, and it's kind of like I don't know what those other 2 are, or if they're chunky or if they're creamy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out. Are you chunky or creamy? It's such a funny phrase. Such a funny phrase. But anyway, today, like I said, don't take the tree down. We're gonna do something else today. So about twice a year, I take all my spices down and my herbs, teas, you know, stuff like that, and I go through them. Because I mean, like, if you run out of garlic powder, obviously you go get garlic powder or garlic granules or whatever. And don't buy the salt. Don't buy garlic salt. Don't buy celery salt. Don't buy onion salt, because basically it's like 50% salt and 50% of the onion or the herb. And if you want to add salt, add salt. Don't buy it. You're gonna spend a little bit more money, but okay, whatever. Off my soapbox. Anyway, I mean, you fill them up, you know, throughout the year, but it just gets, you know, after this, especially after the holidays and stuff like that, is a great time for me to take everything down and go get my supplies and bring them out and fill jars and see what I have. You know, take inventory. Oh, that's another thing. Oh, I gotta do inventory. Yeah. I have 4 candles. No, that's not how you do inventory. Okay, that's another thing. But that's what we're doing today. And I know it's a little unconventional, but looking forward to this year, I think it's going to be a little unconventional. I'm not sure where this is going. I haven't really, so in March it'll be a year that I have been doing the YouTube. I cannot believe it'll be a year, you guys. It's super crazy. But the way I'm looking at things, it could be a little unconventional. It could be a little unconventional. That was a word. But we'll just go with the flow, right? We just do what we do. Or I do what I do. But so today, that's what we're doing. We're going through the spices. So 3 things. Dream big, be true to you. You are worth it. Let's go check out these spices and herbs and flowers and teas and all that. Okay, to start, I got these stickers, okay? Just because I had them. I want to label my jars because I usually just write on them with permanent marker, which does work, you know, but after a while, you know, it starts to come off. So I'm going to do these, but you might not see me do them, just so you know. So this is what you need when you do a massive overhaul with spices. You want, you know, some towels. You might need some rings and lids. You might want some rings and lids. I want a spice grinder. just because, you know, a lot of my spices I have whole, but I want them ground, so I grind them and put them in little containers. A pen, if you're going to write on a permanent marker. And I always have a paper for spices I'm low at, or, you know, where I'm at with spices. You know, take your notes. And that's usually where I start, and then I get my stuff together. The next thing you want to do is assess your cabinet. And I will pop a couple pictures in here. I usually clean the bottom shelf out and wipe it down. My second shelf, I'll show you here. I'm not going to do today because that's more of my baking stuff. But if, for a little tip, if you have a sturdy box that's, you know, about, you know, 4 inches or so and long, that's what I have up there. I have, and that knocks up, it gives it a shelf, a second level to my spices there. So, and just for a fun fact, if you know, these mushroom containers, you know, you buy the big mushrooms in there, that is a great thing to use. Like, don't go out and buy a bunch of containers like this, or, you know, like, I'm going to do my spice cabinet like this. Don't do that. I seriously would just try and find some things around the house that you can recycle and use until you get a better idea of what you want. I always wanted this little Lazy Susan. It was round and it spun. But you know what? I have too many spices. It's a flat one, you know, it fits in your cabinet. I have too many spices for that. So, yeah. So this little one holds my husband's Lori seasoned salt. I don't buy that stuff. Some extracts I have. Some minced ginger I got in an order that I didn't even order. And of course they're like, keep it. This is like usually my, you know, it's kind of off to the side and stuff. So, okay. The dog's having a cow. Oh, don't forget you need something to drink while you're doing this. And I don't advise gin or anything like that because if you mix up your spices, you're going to be really pissed at yourself. Okay, so the first one is my spice grind, or my pepper mill, which, you know, we usually fill a couple times a year. Funnels work great. I gotta buy some more. I think my boys are stealing my funnels. I don't know. I have my main one, but I don't know what happened to the other one. You know, and there's my pepper. Okay. Actually keep it on this lid in my cupboard, otherwise I got pepper all over. And, you know, it says I have plenty of pepper, so I don't need that, right? Okay, and I told you I'd show you my parsley, which I forgot I had stapled. But that's because my kids, you know, bounce around in the freezer and they're throwing stuff all over and stuff comes undone if, you know. So, yeah, it's stapled. These things are nifty. Do you have these? Okay, so this is my parsley that I have frozen. Okay, remember I told you I keep it frozen? Just because I accidentally froze it. But look at this beautiful green color. Now, this one has been taken out of the freezer previously and put into a jar. But look at the color. Do you see that color difference? There's two. I just fill up my jar. This is my one jar for my house, or for the kitchen. I don't know what we use so much parsley for, but we really go through it a lot. I remember my Grandpa John, we used to have this buffet place in town, and they'd always, you know, you go through the buffet, like, for your salad and soup, you know what I'm talking about, and then you would, and then when they brought your entree, like steak or shrimp or whatever you'd order, they'd have this fresh piece of parsley on the side, and I always thought he was being funny because he'd eat it, but as a kid I don't remember if I got any on mine or not. So, but yeah, he always ate that, and he'd be like, "What are you doing?" It's green. It's leafy. It's yeah. But so then this is parsley. This is going back into the freezer, and this is going back into my storage room for a quick refill on this. Okay, this is bay leaves. Any jar will do, you guys. Any jar will do. Just make sure it doesn't get moldy or whatever. If your spices get moldy, you will have to throw them. I've never had that issue. They say it's a thing. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's a thing. Okay. This is a jar I want to change out. It's a thing. Yeah, so okay. So this is my old turmeric jar. But do you see? It doesn't really fit. It wasn't in my spices for the longest time, but it doesn't really fit because I put them on top of each other. So he's kind of a oddball jar. So I'm just gonna put him in here and relabel him, and my turmeric is down to here. So depending on how fast I go through it, I will probably order when I get down to here. Okay, so my turmeric, I scraped out as much as I possibly could. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put coconut oil, a little bit of coconut oil, melt it, and clean up the jar, because you don't want to waste that, right? So we're doing that. And then another tip for you, you know, everybody's, don't believe people, everybody's containers get dirty. And so, I mean, just, you know, sorry, just give them a good swipe, you know, if you need to. If they're really bad, just, you know, now's the time to clean them, because you're not going to want to do it again, okay? You're not going to want to take it out and scrub it and, you know, just take a half a day and just do it. Just do it, okay? But anyway, okay, let's talk about curry. Now, I know there is such a thing called curry leaves, but curry is actually a spice blend. So, and I know you can go on, oh, I don't know if it's Mommy Potamus or if it's Wellness Mama, but you can Google curry spice recipe and just compare, you know, 2 or 3 and see how they differ. But I didn't know that for the longest time. I really thought that was a plant. Okay. The things we discover. Okay, this is, I said this is my mustard. So the mustard I have that I'm using right now is ground. But you can also get mustard seed that's not ground. I'm going to show you my husband's. I have some, but I don't want to, I don't want to open the bag. The mustard seed. There's brown and there's yellow. Can't remember what the difference is. An interesting fact. So my husband, my son is taking these equine classes, right? And he's a horse lover, total horse lover. But in this book, it's almost like a dictionary for doctoring horses, like taking care of them, for respiratory problems, because his horse has asthma really bad, kind of like him. And it says in there to give them so many cc's of French's mustard. French's mustard, not off-brand, French's mustard. So he was trying to do that, and then he got hurt. It's another story. We won't discuss that. He's good now. He's good. He's it was just very traumatic for him and me and our family, but no, he's good. He's good. And yeah, so he was doing that to see if it would actually help, but he hasn't been able to follow through with it. And so I'm hoping this spring he will be able to. But that's isn't that interesting? I told him if it works for the horse, that should work for you. But yeah, I don't think he eats enough mustard. And I mean, literally squirting it down the horse's mouth or putting it in their feed. I think he's putting it in their feed. But I thought that was really crazy because it's actually it's in this medical dictionary for horses. There's my labels. See? Okay, and then talking cinnamon. Remember cinnamon? That was such a fun video, you guys. So I have powdered and I have cinnamon sticks. My powdered, which I go through a lot of cinnamon, you guys. So this last stuff that I bought was the Chinese cinnamon. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. This is really interesting. This is the new one I bought, and it's premium Vietnamese, but their cinnamon aromaticum is the same. It's the same. And then this one was this Corinche. I know, I'm slaughtering it. Cinnamon Bermani. Those are my cinnamon sticks. They're all potent. They all, I mean, all smell great. You know. I don't know why. We just tend to use a lot of cinnamon. Woo! Well, okay. And, okay, something you can do. You know, the covers get really dirty on these things. I'm gonna put him over here. We'll leave him in his bag until I absolutely have to have him out. I guess you could wash these. You should probably wash these. I don't wash these because I'm one of those cooks who I'd be washing them constantly. If they get really bad, I will do it, or if they get wet, but you know, there's no reason for that, really. I'm not going to label him. We all know that this is the cinnamon jar. Okay, but I need to fill him up. So when I put them in my little white plastic containers, my spices, I do kind of arrange them a little bit, okay? Like baking spices. Hang on here. Now, I have to check. I'm not sure if I ordered cinnamon sticks. I swear I ordered cinnamon sticks. Huh. If I find them, I will show them to you which ones I bought. Obviously, you don't have to label him because he's cinnamon sticks. So group them according to, okay, like rosemary. What goes with rosemary? Marjoram. Thyme. I have to fill him, you know. Oh, what is he? What was he? I don't know. Oh, he was rose hips. Never mind. My oregano. You see where I'm going with this? The coriander and the sage. Like, those are like, you know, like spices, you know? Like cooking spices and then baking spices and then maybe spice blends, just however you want to do it. I'm topping them all off, you guys, okay? Like, this is my time to blow a whole afternoon and listen to Christmas music for finally, and no. I hate that they start it, boom, right after Thanksgiving, and then they cut it off, boom, right after Christmas. Like, that is so just wrong. So I have tarragon, which I don't use very often. And I know that because this is a Toshi's label, and we haven't been to Toshi's in years. But I have it. It's in a bag with a twist tie in a jar. Put your spices in jars, guys. Glass containers. It's absolutely the best. I don't know what tarragon's for. I'm gonna have to do a video on that because I just don't know. And then here's my sage. And then this is the sage I had in my garden last year. I had a beautiful plant. There's all different types of sage. So I'm not going to fill him up because he's, you know, he's a ground one. And if you're going to grind them, if you're concerned about spices mixing and blending too much, like if you grind cloves, I should grind cloves. If you grind your cloves and then you want to grind like marjoram, you know, clean it out, you know. I have a nice spice grinder. Like, I have two of these because we broke one. It was the coffee grinder at the time. But mine can actually come off, so I can wash this out. He's a little green. I can't remember what I did with him, but he's green. Okay? You need a basket for those ones that you don't use very often. Poultry seasoning. Oops. This is another Toshi's one. I'm assuming it's for turkey. Stuffing? Stuffing. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. But I know there's one, like I said, just Google it. I'm going to end up Googling this and making my own poultry seasoning. To warn you, my tea blends, like, okay, so cinnamon sticks are usually for apple cider or drinks, right? Tea. My tea things don't go in my spice rack. They go, like my raspberry leaves, my nettle, my astragalus, that all goes on this. I'll show you the cupboard. It's a disaster. Yes, my husband hates it. Yes, but those go on there. Okay, so different formulation, different place. I do buy some blends. Okay, so this Fiesta Chili Spice blend from, it's either Frontier Co-op. I think that's who it's from. I know I have another one somewhere, but maybe I don't. I do like this one. It's got the oregano, it's got allspice, it's got chili powder, it's got cumin, whoops, all right in there. And I use it for, you know, just about all those things, you know, tacos, no, I don't use it for sloppy joes, chili, tacos, you know, all that jazz. So that is my chili Fiesta. You want a little tip? Don't sweep the floor till after you're done. I have cornstarch. You can store this in the freezer. Baking soda, flours, they tell you you can't. You really can. My only suggestion is if you pull it out of the freezer and it's been in there for a while, write the date on it that you took it out. Because their Best By date, you know, it could have been like a year ago, but you've had it in the freezer for a year, so, you know, count it as when you took it out of the freezer. Okay, so we haven't really had to write much down as far as needs yet so far, but I am going to do some notes. So the tarragon I have, I'm going to do some research on what to use it for, because I haven't been using it. The other thing I'm going to write down is poultry seasoning. Recipe. And when you research a recipe, make sure I usually get 2 or 3 or 4 and I compare them, you know, like this is this, this is this. And usually the percentage of basically most of it is the same. And then there might be some little additives. So, but that's what I'm going to do for that. One thing I do know I need, Simply Organic is a great one. If you're just going to buy a small container, these are really good. You can even find them on Vitacost if you know, they usually have specials. Not my cayenne. My paprika. My cayenne is, I got lots of that. My paprika, I know I don't have a big one of it, and I'm getting down there. You know, you can't make paprikash without paprika. So I am going to write that down, that this is what I do need. And paprika. A necessary item. Here is my pumpkin spice recipe. It's 1 tablespoon cinnamon and 1 teaspoon ginger, cloves, nutmeg, and allspice, all ground out. So if you want to, you know, make the pumpkin spice herbal latte, which was delightful, there you go. Or your own pumpkin spice. Another little tip for you is, so Four Brothers is a brand at our Cashwise store. Cashwise, Corbin's, whatever. Can't remember who's associated with who. But, okay. I'm a junk collector. No, I'm kidding. Save these. Okay? Because, okay, I have a little bit of cardamom from them left, right? But this I can use for something else, like my ground allspice. If I just want a small container of it. And if you save the jar, the container, you can reuse it for a different spice maybe that you're just trying out. You can also use just a small spoon, you know, and not a funnel. This is not a chore to do when you have little kids running around, because believe me, don't ask me. I know this. Another tip for you, when you have these bags, push the air out of them, okay, before you seal them up, because it is that oxygen in there that, you know, makes them go bad. And I try and roll them down. So, talking about ginger, okay, the first time I ordered this, I was so upset with myself, because I didn't have a spice grinder, and it looks just like this in here, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do, right? But this is great. So I have a jar, I usually have this big jar that has all this type of ginger in it. And then I have a little jar that has my, that disappeared on me. Oh, he's empty, that's why. A little jar that's totally ground ginger for when I need a powder. But the big ginger is great for teas. My philosophy is, if you're gonna grind a spice, you might as well grind it, you know, and this isn't really finely ground, like it could be even better, but for our purposes, I guess we're just good with it. We're used to it. But if you're gonna grind it, you know, grind it, like, unless you don't use the spice very often. But we're gonna do this, because then I'm gonna put that one in there. Ooh, another thing I will do is, if I have a little bit left, I will you know, get the air out, rubber band it, and rubber band it to the jar. So I use this first. Here I'm grinding my cardamom pods. You have to pop them out and put the seeds in there. They look like mouse poop, literally. Okay, and here's my ground cloves. It's just heavenly. They smell amazing. So, guys, you want to keep your spices in a cool, dark place, out of direct sunlight and away from heat. So don't really, a lot of people store them right by their stove, and I know that's a thing. But maybe, you know, and above the stove is not a good place for oils and spices. You know, maybe the cupboard beside it, or across from, you know, over. If you have them on your counter, you know, make sure they're out of direct sunlight. It will help them to stay fresh longer. The reason I said put them in glass versus plastic is actually porous, and glass will help extend the shelf life also. These are my beautiful star anise. Oh, aren't they gorgeous? Beautiful. Now, the shelf life on spices, it's all different for each type and each style of spice. So if it looks fresh, dried spices look fresh. Actually, they can look, you know, they're still green. If they're not faded, if they still are aromatic. That was my dandelion root. This is my oat straw that I use for tea and tea blends. Yeah. So if it's a whole leaf or flower, it should be good 1 to 2 years. If it's seeds and bark, it should be good 2 to 3 years. If it's the roots, definitely, like, it should be good for 3 years. So you have a lot of leeway. People just aren't very specific about it. Right? Right. Okay. And this is, what was I putting in here? I was putting something interesting here. Oh, my gunpowder green tea. Yep. I use that for my kombucha. Yeah, that's what I use that for. I'm just showing you. You can put this in a totally different jar. It doesn't have to be a specific jar. This is my jar that I have had for many years, that I use for many different things. It's, you know, the dip jar, salsa, whatever was in it. And I do cut the label out so that I have the label, so I know what it is and what it's used for. All that jazz. You gotta know it. Believe me, you won't remember it. Unless it's something like star anise or cinnamon sticks, you know, where it's blatantly obvious. So, on to spices. If it's powdered, that means there's more surface area exposed. If it's loose leaf, right, like you grow your own, and like I should tell you, don't crush the leaves, it keeps the herb and the oils in it as intact as possible. Okay? What are we doing here? This is my hawthorn berry. Hawthorn berry for tea. Yep. So if it's ground, leaves 1 year, seeds and bark 1 year, roots 2 years. If it's ground. This is my astragalus root, and we will talk about what that's for another day in another video. But once again, I'm putting it in a sauerkraut jar. I have a lot of those. We tend to eat a lot of sauerkraut. And you guys, the reason I try and do this twice a year is simply to, you know, go over and assess what I have and what I need. That is my orange peel. Love orange peel. Oh, it's delightful in spice blends. It's delightful in teas. We'll have to do that one day. Yep. This is my, rose hips. Rose hips. Rose hips are tricky. Okay? If you get the whole rose hip like this and you're making tea, that's fine. Don't chop them up. Or get the powder. Because if you cut them open, they have little fine hairs that, I think it used to be made, they used to make itching powder with it. And it's really amazing item if you want to get back at your brother for something. But it's a great way to see what I have, what I need, and, you know, go from there. This is the shelf in my cupboard, all nice and organized now. My husband will be impressed if he notices. This is my cupboard with all my tea blends on there and my kombucha going. This is inside my storage room. These are all my herbs and flowers and things I've collected. This is how I label my boxes with my extra spices in it. They're just a flat box, and it's just paper with, you know, what's in that box, because I have like 4 of them. So this way I know exactly what I'm looking for and which box it is in. And there you have it, a few tips and tricks on how to care for your spices. I hope you had a good time. Thank you for dropping by. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.